Hey folks, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor and this is my November wrap-up in which I read 8 things. I'm quite pleased with myself, particularly because I didn't actually read anything at all for the first half of the month because I had final assignments and exams for my class, and so I just didn't want to get into anything or pick up anything until that was done. So in the second half of November, I read 8 things. I'm really pleased. I'm still slightly behind on my Goodreads challenge by about a book or two, but it's now December, and I'm having most of December off work, so that should not be a problem. I've read 108 books. My goal is 120. I can totally read 12 things in a month that I'm barely at work. So that's great. But this is all about what I read in November. So the first thing that I read in November was Restoration by Angela Slatter. This is the third in the Verity Fassbinder trilogy. It is a complete trilogy as far as I understand, but there are probably going to be more books coming after this. So it's sort of the first trilogy, I guess. I hope there's more books. I really, really do, because there were some definite plot threads that were left open, mysteries that were left intact kind of thing at the end of this. But this is the third book. I love this series so much. It is urban fantasy set in Brisbane in Australia. It is very Australian, but not like gauchely Australian. But it does things like, I mean, this is not a spoiler, but in this book, our lead character, Verity, who is half weird, half human, and a bit of a PI detective kind of person who fixes problems. She's tired, she's hungry, she makes Vegemite and cheese on toast. That's something I grew up eating, and it's not something you would ever hear of a character eating in an American book or in a British book, only an Australian book. And that's how I love this series so much. So, I mean, I won't say much about what this third book's about because obviously it's the third book in the series. But it's fantastic. I absolutely love this series. I thoroughly recommend it. The first book is called Vigil. So if you want to get that, I really, really recommend it. So that's Restoration by Angela Slatter. I then went back to my reading of manga, of my first manga series. So Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon by Naoko Takeuchi. This is volume 4. It was fun. It took me a while, because it's been a while since I've read any, so it took me a while to figure out what exactly was going on and get used to the reading style that manga has, because obviously it's kind of backwards to what I usually read. And so it was cute, it was fun. I don't always like Sailor Moon as a character, particularly. I like Sailor Moon. I don't so much like Sailor Moon when she's not being Sailor Moon. She can be a bit irritating. And I wasn't all that keen on this storyline. There's a whole bunch of time travel in this volume, which is interesting. But yeah, so that was Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon volume 4. Okay, and the next couple of things were things I just wanted to finish. Just wanted to finish them. Oh, no, actually, no, that's not what came next. What came next was an audio. I listened to the most recent short story novella on Tansy Rayner Roberts' She Might Fly podcast, which was Halloween is Not a Verb. So this is the latest in her series about Belladonna University. So the series about the band Fake Geek Girl and Associates in Tasmania with magic. And yeah, Halloween is not a verb. It was fun. It was a Halloween themed story, but Australian Halloween, which means it acknowledged, the issues that Australia has with Halloween in that it's the wrong season for us. And yeah, there were magical mishaps and decisions and all that kind of stuff. So that was Halloween is Not a Verb by Tansy Rayner Roberts. You can either buy it as an ebook or you can listen to it for free on her podcast, She Might Fly. I thoroughly recommend the Belladonna University series. It's fantastic. I love it. So yes, the next things I read were things I just wanted to get off my TBR because they've been in my currently reading pile for a little while, and I just wanted to finish them. So, Star Wars. Tales from Jabba's Palace, edited by Kevin J. Anderson. This is a little anthology of stories where basically it's kind of a shared moment the stories interact with each other, even though they're written by different people, because they've basically taken all the aliens and characters you just get a glimpse of in Jabba's throne room, in the Jabba's palace section of Return of the Jedi, and given them their own stories of intrigue and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't great. A lot of the stories are really disgusting. Like, they try to be as disgusting as possible. Unsurprisingly, probably my favourite stories of the bunch involved female characters. So there was a story, I think by Kathy Tyers, about Ula, the Twi'leki dancing girl, the one who gets eaten by the Rancor in the movie. And it was very much, I found it a very powerful story because, yes, her end is tragic and horrible and awful, but it was her internal self that the story was about, her faith in that death wasn't the end, and her fierceness and her love of dancing. So I really liked that. There was a story by Timothy Zahn, which is, Mara Jade. Always love saying Mara Jade. Always love reading Timothy Zahn's Star Wars stories. Didn't tell me a great deal of new kind of stuff about Mara. We all knew she'd been there, that kind of thing. The last story is about the big, fat, sort of six-breasted dancing girl. And that was actually really good and really positive and really fun. So yeah, I mean, some of the stories were okay, but I wouldn't, I spent a lot of time going, oh, that's disgusting. So, I suppose what else can you expect from Jabba's palace, I guess. But yeah, so that's finished, and that's another anthology off my TBR pile, which is one of my goals this year. I also finally got around to finishing The Courtship of Princess Leia by Dave Wolverton. I've been kind of hate reading this. I didn't really have any opinion of it as a kid. Like, I've owned it for a long time, since probably my tweens. But it wasn't one that I reread a lot growing up. It was just kind of there. Yeah, it's kind of terrible. It's got all the worst, most problematic romantic tropes thrown at the Star Wars universe. I don't think the characterization's very good. It picks up a bit at the end when the plot gets moving, but yeah, there's women keeping men as slaves. There's Leia being taken away by Han by using the gun of command, which takes away her free will. There's Leia treating Han terribly. There's this Prince Isolde who has fallen in love with Leia despite the fact he's never met her before, but he's proposing anyway. And it's just, it's just kind of dreadful, really. I mean, probably Luke and maybe 3PO are the best things in it, I guess. Maybe Nnedi or Joe, when she isn't trying to enslave men. Yeah, it's not great. I don't recommend it at all. Sorry. I usually love Star Wars books, but yeah, the Suck Fairy really visited this one. But I had to read it because it was a bunch of Rogue Podron episodes, and I couldn't really remember enough of the story. So, yay, it's read, it's off my TBR. Fine. I also finally finished The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. Now, this is a book that I was really looking forward to because it hit all my buttons. It's Regency, queer characters, characters of colour going on a romp around Europe, a female character who's asexual, who's the main character's sister. A little bit of fantasy. Should have hit all my buttons. Oh my god, the main character. Not Percy. I keep saying Percy. It's not Percy, it's Monty. The problem is, I don't like Monty, who's the main character, who's gay, bisexual, whatever. I'm not actually sure. It's like he sleeps with women, but he's in love with a man, and yeah, I guess he's bi. He's an idiot. He's selfish. He's privileged and doesn't recognise his own privilege. And because it's written in first person, that's really, really hard because I don't like him at all. I love his sister. I love Felicity. And Percy, the guy his best friend who he's in love with, is really cool. And actually has epilepsy. So that adds another bit of diversity to it. But it was so hard to get through when I didn't like Percy. And he didn't have his great revelations until like the last sort of 50 or 60, maybe 100 pages. And it's a 500-page book. So, you know, it might have been easier on me if it was third person, but it wasn't. It was first person. And, but I wanted to finish it because the second book is from Felicity's perspective. And it's about Felicity. And I really liked Felicity. In fact, I would have only rated it 2 stars on Goodreads, but I rated it 3 because Felicity deserves her own star. Because she's practical, she's intelligent, she wants to be a doctor, she's not interested in having a relationship. And yeah, I'm really I want to read hers. So I'm not sure if I'll buy it. I might try and get it from the library or something. But yeah, that's The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. It was a bit of a letdown for me, really. But again, it's off my currently reading pile. Also, you know, heads towards my goal of reading queer characters, and I think maybe even authors of colour, because I think Mackenzie Lee, I don't know. No, she doesn't look like she's Asian American. So yeah, maybe not that. But yeah. Then the seventh thing I read in November was, of course, issue 2 of Shuri by Nnedi Okorafor. So, yeah, this is issue 2 of the comic about Princess Shuri. It's great. It's beautifully drawn. There's so many African female characters. You know, it's still a bit too much talking about a boy for my liking. And I got a bit frustrated with the older women because they want Shuri to do a specific thing. And she's like, no, I want to do it my way. And I'm, you know, the royal here. So, yeah, that was a bit awkward when, like, her mother was like, I'm disappointed in you. And she's like, but I'm not, I don't want to be my brother and have it taken away when I get back. He gets back, you know. I want to do it my way. And I'm like, yeah, you know, whatever. So that's Shuri by Nnedi Okorafor, issue 2. Really enjoying that. And then I finished it up with an ebook, which I have a lovely, gorgeous new Kindle cover here. Isn't it beautiful? But, you know, I felt the need to read a Jane Austen variation, and I found a new one, which came out in, I think, July this year, that it's not a Pride and Prejudice one. It's a Sense and Sensibility one. And I absolutely loved it. I read it in, like, one day. Just guzzled it down. Really well written. It's called The Correction of Folly, and it's by Christine Combe. It's actually the first book in a series, and it's a What Might Have Happened series. So this is Sense and Sensibility based. There are some Pride and Prejudice characters in it, and the second book, which isn't out yet, which I really, really want to read, is going to be a more Pride and Prejudice based one, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, it's basically, it's what asking what would have happened if, in the middle of the story, both Colonel Brandon and Eleanor go, okay, I'm not going to wait around for someone who obviously doesn't want me, or someone, you know, in the case of Marianne, or someone who's engaged to someone else, in the case of Edward. I'm going to get over it. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to look around and see what else is available. And they fall in love with each other. And that's only the first part of the story, because it actually, you know, goes further. And stuff happens, and Pride and Prejudice characters get involved, and then more stuff happens. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. Yeah, I really, really recommend it. It's the best, I think it's one of the best Jane Austen variations I've read in a while. So yeah, I read it on my shiny new Kindle cover. Well, on the Kindle in its shiny new cover. So those are the 8 things that I read in November. So like I said, I have 12 more things to read to reach my goal for the year, but I am on leave for 3 weeks of, you know, most of basically December. So we'll see how I go. All right, if you've read any of those books, let me know what you thought of them. If you're interested in them, sort of feel free to talk about it in the comments, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye.